Leonardo da Vinci. The name itself sounds important, like it should be carved into a mountain. We know him as the painter of mysterious smiles and dramatic dinner parties, the quintessential Renaissance man, a master of art, science, anatomy, and apparently writing backwards for fun. But there's another Leonardo, a much more relatable one. This is the Leonardo who was the undisputed master of starting things and then getting distracted by a cool-looking bird or a weird-shaped rock. His notebooks are legendary, thousands of pages filled with breathtaking ideas, revolutionary concepts, and designs for machines that were centuries ahead of their time. The catch? Almost none of them were ever built. And the ones that were, well, it's a good thing he was a better painter. This isn't the story of a flawless genius. It's the story of the guy who designed a helicopter 400 years early and then couldn't be bothered to finish a portrait on time. He was a brilliant mind trapped by the limitations of his era, his materials, and his own spectacular lack of focus. Let's start with his most famous obsession, human flight. For years, Leonardo sketched hundreds of designs for flying machines. His favorite was the ornithopter, a device that aimed to fly by flapping its wings like a bird. A beautiful concept, really, poetic even, and from an engineering standpoint, profoundly idiotic. See, birds have millions of years of evolution on their side. They have hollow bones, incredibly powerful pectoral muscles, and a metabolism that runs hotter than a forge. Humans, by contrast, are basically sacks of wet clay with ambitions. Our power-to-weight ratio is abysmal. Leonardo's designs, sketched for materials like pine and starched silk, would have weighed a ton. He expected a single, probably very fit, person to lie face down and pedal with their arms and legs to generate enough power. It's like trying to power a cargo plane with a stationary bike. He perfectly understood bird anatomy, but completely missed the fundamental physics of lift. Flapping is just one part of the equation, and for a heavy land mammal, it's the wrong part. When he wasn't trying to launch himself into the sky, Leonardo was designing new ways for people to hurt each other on the ground. His design for an armored car looks shockingly modern, like a steampunk turtle armed with cannons. It was commissioned by Ludovico Sforza, the Duke of Milan, who probably wanted a terrifying new toy for his army. On paper, it was unstoppable. It featured a conical shell to deflect cannonballs and 360-degree cannons. The problem was propulsion. It was designed to be moved by 8 men inside, turning massive cranks connected to the wheels. A lovely idea, except for one tiny detail discovered by modern engineers who built a replica. The gearing system was designed backwards. If the men cranked in the same direction, the front and back wheels would try to turn in opposite directions. The tank would have been completely immobile. Some historians argue this was a deliberate flaw, a secret pacifist message. A more likely explanation? Leonardo just messed up. It happens to the best of us. Speaking of military toys designed to look impressive, let's talk about the giant crossbow. This thing was less a practical weapon and more an exercise in sheer intimidation. Spanning nearly 80 feet, it was supposed to hurl massive stone balls. The design itself was magnificent, set on a 6-wheeled carriage for mobility. Imagine trying to haul this behemoth onto a 15th century battlefield. The logistics would be a nightmare. You'd need a dedicated team of engineers just to assemble it. Then comes the loading process. Winding the bow would require a massive mechanical winch, taking ages and making a tremendous amount of noise, kindly alerting the enemy that you're about to fire eventually. And for what? By this era, cannons were already a thing. They were louder, more powerful, and significantly less likely to snap and take out your own troops. The giant crossbow was an answer to a question nobody was asking. It was the Renaissance equivalent of building a ridiculously oversized pickup truck. It's not about utility, it's about making a statement. Leonardo also had plans for conquering the sea, or at least for sneaking up on enemy ships in Venice. He designed a diving suit, which is another one of those ideas that sounds brilliant until you look at the details. The suit was to be made of waterproof leather. So far, so good. It had a helmet with glass viewports, still on track. The air supply is where things get interesting. Breathing tubes made of cane and leather joints would run from the helmet up to a cork float on the surface. This tethered the diver to the surface, making stealth a bit tricky, and created a single point of failure that, if compromised, guaranteed a very wet death. But my favorite feature, the detail that truly screams Leonardo, is the inclusion of a small pouch for the diver to urinate in. He thought about air, he thought about movement, and he thought about the inevitable call of nature mid-mission. It's a marvel of forward-thinking practicality attached to a machine that would almost certainly kill you. Priorities. Not all his inventions were for war or impossible travel. Some were just for showing off. Take his mechanical knight. Around 1495, Leonardo designed and possibly built a humanoid automaton. It was a suit of German-style armor filled with a complex system of cables and pulleys. This medieval robot could supposedly stand, sit, raise its visor, and move its arms independently. It couldn't fight or do chores. Its only function was to be amazing. It was probably built for a festival hosted by the same Duke Sforza who ordered the non-moving tank. The Duke clearly had a taste for expensive, slightly useless gadgets. The knight is a perfect symbol for many of Leonardo's mechanical pursuits. They weren't always about solving a practical problem. Sometimes they were about the pure joy of creation, of seeing if a crazy idea could be brought to life, even just for one night at a fancy party. It was engineering as performance art. So, was Leonardo a failure? Of course not, but his genius wasn't in the finished product. His real, lasting contribution was the process. His notebooks show a mind relentlessly curious, a man who saw the world not just for what it was, but for what it could be. He was a master of the what if. What if man could fly? What if a vehicle could protect its occupants? What if we could breathe underwater? The answers he drew were flawed, limited by the science and materials of his time. He didn't have access to lightweight alloys, internal combustion engines, or a basic understanding of thermodynamics. He was working with wood, cloth, and human muscle. His failures are arguably more instructive than his successes. They show the absolute limit of what one brilliant mind could imagine, centuries before technology could catch up. The Mona Lisa is beautiful, sure, but a drawing of a tank with a critical design flaw? That shows you how innovation actually works, with brilliant ideas, bold attempts, and a whole lot of stuff that just doesn't pan out. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more historical insights. Thanks for watching, nerds!